For those of you who have been sitting with the daily sit, you know that I do a lot of my meditation practice in nature. And I so value nature as one of my teachers. So many of the lessons I learn about myself and living this life, nature has helped me realize more deeply. Nature manifests the Buddhist teachings without words or book, without intellect, and I can feel it and directly experience it. Everything's changing all the time. Everything's impersonal and manifesting because of certain conditions. Even the heart qualities are made alive in nature. My heart opens so easily to the birds at my feeder, the newborn fawn in my back field, even the turtle trying to cross the road. I connect with the inherent vulnerability in nature, and it really touches my heart. And patience too. Nature teaches so much about patience. We can see and feel patience everywhere in nature, in the animate and the inanimate. Think just a minute about the Colorado River that created the Grand Canyon. Over eons of time, amounts of time we can barely fathom, right? Billions of years of formation and erosion to create this incredible feature. Slowly, without any sense of urgency, the river flowed with persistence and constancy, which are two other words for patience. And from that, the canyon was revealed. Or think about the seasons. The seeds and the roots and the bulbs under the ground, dormant, and waiting through the cold of winter for sun to melt the ice and warm the soil so they can emerge slowly when the conditions are right. And then when they do, the tenacity of their growth and blossoming. Nature creates and transforms without any sense of impatience towards the process. And this is so unlike most of us humans. When we are young, we want to speed up our growth. And when we age, we become impatient with the speed of the process and try to slow it down. And nature has none of that. There's beauty, even majesty at any age, whether it's young saplings or old trees like the redwoods or the old growth forests. It could be newly formed volcanic mountains or old craggy mountain ranges. And we can find patience in the wild beings too. Think about the heron that stands so still in the water that its legs are seen as sticks by its prey. And it waits, alert and awake, until the right conditions arise and a fish swims by. Patience. Also noticing that patience is alert and awake. It's not passive. There's no rushing towards or leaning forward among these creatures. Instead, there is a surrender to the way things are in this moment, and then in this one. I read an article recently that used this word surrender, and it struck me. It's a strong word. Usually in our practice, we say that we accept things as they are. But surrender, especially as it relates to nature, has a stronger sense of letting go into the acceptance. Having to let go because there's no denying that this is the way things are. Whether it's the weather, the seasons, daylight and darkness, we know that these are things that we cannot change, so we don't fight them and and instead we accept their reality. I think of a farmer who surrenders to the seasons and the weather, especially in these days of such variable weather, and then responds as best as possible in order to grow their crops. Surrender doesn't mean that we're passive or defeatist, but that we act more within the true reality of the moment. And it's when we're not able to surrender to the reality of our circumstances that impatience arises, whether it's getting stuck in a rainstorm or getting stuck in traffic. The wild world surrenders to the realities of nature all the time, and we can learn to also. Nature trusts its own pace and its own unfolding. It really models this way of being to us. And when we come to nature, we can find more trust too for our pace and our process. Frequently, I go outside if I'm disturbed by something or feeling impatient with someone, and I can open more into the spaciousness. Without words, I know that I'm held by something that's bigger than myself, and my restless mind relaxes, and I can find more patience for the entire situation. It's as if nature is offering it to me through osmosis. And, I think many of us do this without really noticing that nature is showing us, holding us, and supporting us. We think we're separate from the world around us, that we're just moving through nature, that nature is the backdrop for our lives. But really, quite literally, we are nature. We've just forgotten. If we are nature, we have the same capacity for patience, for letting go of the rush and the leaning forward into our lives, and being more accepting of our moment-to-moment experience. We don't have to make everything so effortful, but instead can find peacefulness and can find our own pace. Think of a birder who has a particular bird they want to see, and they travel to an area that has just the right conditions for this species. They arrive early in the morning when the birds are active, and they stand quietly and still, and then they wait, knowing that it takes time, knowing that no particular efforting on their part will speed up the process. And really what's happening is they're entering nature, becoming a part of it. And surprisingly, many people, many birders say that the process, whether they see the particular bird or not, is so enjoyable. The urgency that is felt in other parts of their lives is absent, and there's a contentment with the time and the process. Maybe one of the best examples that I can think of is the poetry of Mary Oliver, whom many of you may be familiar with. She captures this quality of patience, both her own in her observation skills, and also in what is being observed in nature. She's totally attentive and alert to what is happening around her, as if she too is a part of it, not separate from it. And then she captures it for us all in her words. Listen to just this one piece from the poem called The Summer Day, where she describes a grasshopper. Who made the grasshopper? This grasshopper, I mean, the one who has flung herself out of the grass, the one who's eating sugar out of my hand, who's moving her jaws back and forth instead of up and down, who's gazing around with her enormous and complicated eyes. Now she lifts her pale forearms and thoroughly watches her face. Now she snaps her wings open and floats away. As Mary Oliver describes it, we can see it and feel it as if we are there with her, keenly interested in this one grasshopper. And what I really love and admire about her words is that she engages us so easily and connects us to the world around us. She makes this grasshopper so interesting just by slowing down and observing, so that we say to ourselves, aren't grasshoppers amazing? You know, our culture is so sure that we have to be wowed by moving quickly and getting more stimulation, right? This is why we get so addicted to our devices, because we think that they can feed that need for stimulation with the next text or the new email. And yet, Mary Oliver points us towards the wow that comes from observing with patience. And it comes not from speeding things up, but by slowing things down. Ralph Waldo Emerson says, adopt the pace of nature. Her secret is patience. And this is what Catherine was speaking to on Monday as well, about learning to trust the pace, ours and others. And nature can show us the way. The pace of nature is patient and accepting. It's not impatient and leaning forward into life. So can we adopt nature's pace? I'd like to end with these words from Lynn Unger. She says, and you, what of your rushed and useful life? Imagine setting it all down, papers, plans, appointments, everything. Leave only a note. Gone to the fields to be lovely. Be back when I'm through blooming. Thank you all for your attention.